computer.
Right.
There you go. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. I want to thank Leon so much. I had so much on, and I was supposed to have a presentation tomorrow night at Hillcrest, which has now been changed to the following Thursday on Zoom, which our whole club is invited to. And so I asked Leon, and so Leon agreed to run the whole thing. Just one thing, your open day exhibition, I put the video on the WhatsApp group. Please send it to as many people as you can. If you see it on Facebook, please share it. And yeah, we just want to get the word out. I've got lots of videos coming up, lots of fun videos. That's just the intro one. Hello, Tracy. I think that was Tracy.
Tracy.
Hello. Hello. So yes, and then Leon and I have got something else coming up. We're cooking something else. We're going to meet on Tuesday just to finalize everything, and then we'll let you know what that is. We're very excited about that as well. So yes, Corne, where's Corne gone? There. Corne, do you want to say anything before we start?
I think you covered it. I'm considering to. I was wondering if we should maybe give a prize to everyone that will do a lucky draw to whoever shares our video, and we have a small prize just inside the club. I think we should do that.
Yes. Hello, Mark. Mark's just joined us.
But don't shout at me, please.
Sorry?
Good evening. Good evening.
Hello.
Hallo Mark.
Leon, hoe gaat het?
Lekker man.
Lekker, dankie.
Ja, same.
Okay, so, Leon, thank you. I know you've done lots of hard work, and it's over to you.
Okay, right. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes. All good.
100%.
Let's hope so, yeah. Do you give me a presenter's screen, or do we look at you? What have we got here?
Well, everyone can do their own thing. You can do presenters, you can do gallery. So when you're ready to share, just share. Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for entrusting me with this. It's actually not the easiest subject.
No.
I went round and round and round in circles trying to find information that was, how can I say, coherent. Because sometimes you found information and it spoke about one way and one aspect of doing things. And then I re-looked and found other information and it said something completely different. So I'm going to just use my head and go with what I know based on some of the information that I found online. And so that's how I'm going to go. So I'm going to start by sharing screen, if you'll just bear with me. Just got to find... Right, okay. Can you all see that screen? Hopefully you can.
Yeah, abstract,
okay.
Yeah.
Right, that abstract, yes. Okay. You will see that Word document. Okay, that's what I'm sort of going to... This is some of the stuff that I managed to find online. Google is just a wonderful thing. It really is. Just Google something and you usually get a huge explanation about what it is and links to YouTube videos and all that sort of stuff. So that's the first thing I'd like to actually point out to people, is to make sure that if you can, you go and try and research these sort of things online yourself as well, because that'll hopefully give you a clearer understanding. But this is what I found about bokeh. Bokeh is defined as an effect of a soft, out-of-focus background that you get when shooting a subject. Okay, we know that. Using a fast lens, and that's where there's a bit of ambiguity. At the widest aperture, such as 2.8 or wider. Simply put, bokeh is a pleasing and aesthetic quality of out-of-focus blur in a photograph. Now, we'll get shortly to how I understand bokeh, but it's loosely based on that as well. What is the difference between blur and bokeh? Okay, I'll show you some examples of this just now as well. Background blur involves blurring the entire image except for the main subject, using the same level of blur. On the other hand, Bokeh also identifies the main subject, but applies varying degrees of blur to a background based on its distance from the subject. And that is really important. That issue about being distanced from the subject, I found that really very helpful. That was the key to this for me. The blurred quality or effect seen in an out of focus portion of a photograph taken with a narrow depth of field or wide aperture and a low number for the beginners. Good bokeh, now this is where I also have issues. Good bokeh is smooth and pleasing, whereas bad bokeh produces a jagged and discordant effect. The quality of bokeh is largely dependent on the construction of the lens. And for this reason, lenses that provide high quality bokeh are prized. Now, there's some really almost conflicting things there, because it tells you that you've got to have a very fast lens. I have taken bokeh images with a standard 5.6 lens, 4 to 5.6 lens, a 100, 400 lens, millimeter lens, and I get equally good bokeh as what I do on a 2.8 100 millimeter macro lens. So it really, I think, depends on the intensity of your light and the distance from your lens, the distance to the bokeh from your lens. And that, I think, is where the bottom line is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you some pictures of bokeh. The first couple of images here were downloaded off the internet. Now, bokeh means, some people call it bokeh, some people call it bouquet. I don't like the bouquet thing because that to me sounds very bridal and flowery. Where bokeh, to me, I understand bokeh as being these blobs of spots of highlights from high spots of light which are captured by the lens. This is a courtesy image of FreePix, and obviously shows very, very good and very intense bokeh. That one as well, I think we all know this. Just interesting, if you look at that one, you see all the highlights, all the blobs are round. Whereas in this one, if you look here, you'll see that that's not round. Some of these are not round in shape, and you'll see it here as well. And as I learned today, that depends on the type of lens that you're using. Now, I didn't know that myself, and they said in that explanation that we heard just now, is that good bokeh gives these round blobs, whereas bad bokeh gives you jagged effects. Now, call me a liar, but is that good or bad bokeh? Is the ones with the jagged edges, to me, are just as attractive as the round ones. And that's just my feeling on the issue. I don't feel that there's good or bad bokeh in this instance. And that one also, that's just, these are all off the internet, which I downloaded off FreePic. Now, the rest of the images are all my images, and I want to actually point out my feeling about bokeh here. Now, I know that some people say that bokeh, not only are these round, accentuated blobs of light, but also shapes which are out of focus. And that explanation that I read to you just now from Word tells you also that it's not always, or is it always, a mixture of the blobs and the mixture of out of focus. To me, this is more like out of focus blobs. To me, this is not bokeh. But I think in some circles it would be accepted as bokeh. And we're talking about areas like this. With a stretch of the imagination, you can probably say there is a little bit of bokeh here, but it's not particularly strong. And I just consider this an out of focus background. And to me, this wouldn't come across as strong bokeh as such. This one as well, okay, you've got very distinct blobs of out of focus color. Yeah, they are round in cases, but if you are going to call this bokeh, is this really a strong bokeh? I don't feel so. This image, interestingly enough, I took with a macro lens, a 100 millimeter macro lens, and that one as well. So this is a 2.8 macro lens. It told me in the description earlier that a 2.8 or a high sensitive lens is going to give you good bokeh, but it hasn't here. And that is why I said I think it has a lot to do with the distance from the subject to the background and the intensity of the light coming into your lens from that background. And that's, to me, is the essence of bokeh. Okay, now this one here is also with my macro lens, but here, if you can see, this has bokeh. It's not strong, but there is bokeh, and it can be sort of, how can I say, classed as a bokeh image. There is bokeh in the image. And this obviously has to do with with brighter light coming in from behind. You can see on the highlights of these glass beads that the light was coming from this side, and that is where the bokeh is. So what I learned from this is that the bokeh is going to be stronger where the light is stronger and where there's more contrast in the light. That is going to give you better bokeh. Okay, here, okay, stretching the imagination a bit, but yes, there is bokeh down at the bottom here and up the side. This has been cropped, so I probably did crop a little bit of the bokeh away. But to me, this is really subtle and really pretty bokeh. It's not really in your face. It adds to the story, and sometimes bokeh can be a little bit intense, and sometimes it can take away from the subject matter. Whereas in this instance, this is soft, and I feel it adds to the value of the image. Okay, here, okay, we can say that there are blobs of bokeh, but if you have a look, there are some round blobs of proper bokeh here as opposed to just out of focus blobs. So yes, another very subtle and soft bokeh image. Here again, just as a matter of interest, that starburst that you see there was completely and absolutely natural. It's not been added. It was just how the sun managed to catch that drop of water, which I was rather chuffed about. You see there's some bokeh down at the bottom here. Yes, now when it comes to a competition, the amount of bokeh that there is and the judge judging the bokeh could be a problem, because the judge might feel, no, there's not enough bokeh there and we need more in a bokeh image. Well, that's a matter of the judging. Okay, here, very strong bokeh here on the right-hand side. Now, this was taken with a 100-400 lens, which is a 5.4 f4 to 5.6 lens. So it's not a particularly fast lens. But the interesting thing here is that there was quite a distance from the leaves to that background. And the sun was shining, obviously. This is obviously backlit. So the sun was shining through the trees here, which has produced that bokeh background. I wasn't aiming to get bokeh. I was aiming to get pretty leaves, and the bokeh came as a freebie. So sometimes this does happen. Sometimes when you go looking for bokeh and try to recreate bokeh, it doesn't happen very easily. But in this instance, well, it just happened. Okay, here there is some bokeh. It's subtle again, but there are areas of bokeh here, which this is again the 2.8 100 macro lens, and the distance between this grasshopper and the trees in the background was quite a long way, probably 20 meters or so. So the dappled light coming through the trees helped to create that bokeh, and that's the advantage of that. Okay, here I just like the juxtaposition between the round bokeh and the round water droplets, but again, 100mm macro, and just the highlights of the light coming through the trees that created that bokeh for me. Now this one I feel is very intense. It's not my favorite as far as bokeh goes. It can't be denied that it is bokeh. But like I said earlier, that bokeh can be very intense and one just has to watch for it. I didn't notice how bad this was at the time that I took this image, but if I did notice that this bokeh was so very intense, I probably would have moved my body position a little bit to exclude some of it. Okay, this is taken with 100mm macro again, and that bokeh being very soft in the background. And I think that proves that, yeah, that's a 2.8 lens, so it is letting in a lot of light, and that's particularly successful. Same here, this was done with the 100-400, but the distance between this subject matter and the trees in the background is 20-30 meters as well. So it's really the strength of the light coming through that dappled, those trees, that dappled light, that really helps to create that background, that bokeh. A little bit of bokeh here, up at the top, all right? Also, you can see backlit. In each of these instances, the light well, the subject is backlit with the light coming from behind. There again, also, well, these, you know where these spiders are, they're amongst the trees and the leaves, and obviously the bokeh is produced by the highlights of light coming through. Also taken with 100mm macro. Okay, that one was also with the macro lens. That was at Butterflies for Africa some years ago, but borderline bokeh. Is it just blobs of color or blobs of highlights, or is it bokeh? Okay, there's some bokeh. Also, quite a distance between the subject and the bokeh in the background, so that has worked well as far as that goes. Then, if you've noticed, and I have mentioned it, obviously all these are backlit. Predominantly, they're all backlit. So that is what's causing the bokeh here, which you're photographing into that light. Okay, some bokeh there. This was just coincidental. This was in Kruger. I didn't expect to get bokeh here, but it happened, and I thought, oh well, it's rather nice. Let's keep it like that. And this was at the Hacklands Aloe Farm, that they have the Aloe Festival in the middle of winter, and it was really quite dark where these sunbirds were, and the light coming through the hedge of trees behind them just created this beautiful bokeh. And I think these were probably the most successful. Could be argued that it could be a little bit intense, but I rather like it myself. And I think that's it. Yeah. Okay, that's really what I've got to say about bokeh, but is there anybody with questions? We need to thrash this out. So if there's people that want to know more, if I can help them, surely will. And obviously the other people here, Des can also help. And if there's anything I missed, Des, maybe you can fill in.
No, I think you got it pretty much. So if I took my camera down into the garden tomorrow and I take a picture of a flower, I got to make sure that the background is quite a distance away, that there's light on that background. So not necessarily backlit, but there's got to be light on whatever is in the background.
Correct.
And
if there are some highlights.
Yes.
If there are highlights.
Little bits of light coming through. Yeah. And if there's water in the background and there's light on that water gives amazing bokeh. That is if you are focusing, say, on your flower with a shallow field, the shallowest depth of field that you can.
Yeah.
So if you've got like an f8 and you're going to find that the water droplets, it's just going to be maybe a bit of a blur and big highlights, but the bokeh comes through with your shallow depth of field. As shallow as your, so if you don't have a macro and you can only do it 5.6, like Leon did that one image because it was so far away. That sunbird from the Hacklands, I've got a picture just like that. It's the same sunbird. I recognize it from a few years ago.
Good for you.
So yes, and like you're saying, I think it's the round stuff. As soon as it gets slightly defined, I think that would be bokeh. Or else it's just a nice blurry background. There are also filters that you can put on the end of your camera, and you get little shapes of hearts. You get heart bokehs and star bokehs, but that's all quite falsified. Yes, I suppose we're looking at sort of the natural bokeh.
Yeah.
So I think
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
It's Heidi here. I actually finally got onto the thing. Des, I heard you mention. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I heard you mention something about bokeh from the front as well, sometime when we were chatting. In the foreground as opposed to in the background.
if you are photographing through a subject and using an image, focusing on something beyond it. Is that what
Yeah,
you
does that also work? Yeah.
Yeah, of course it will work. You've got an out of focus foreground, I think, as I understand you,
Yeah.
with some highlights on it. And that will create a bokeh because it is out of focus and it's not in the same plane as your main subject. So depending on your lens and depending on the light, because all of these play a big part in it as well. Yes, it can work, absolutely. Yeah. Does it answer your question?
I think I got one by accident the other day. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Well, most of those images that you saw there of mine were by accident. I didn't intend to go out to take bokeh. Now I have to go and find bokeh. I probably won't find any. I'll have to construct it somehow. Yeah.
So sorry, I'm just looking at another screen. I'm trying to find a picture to show you. If you want to manufacture it, one of the ways to do it is to take tinfoil and crinkle it up and put it way in the distance and put something in front with a shallow depth of field and try that. You get massive bokeh with that. It can be too strong, so just make sure that your object is quite far away from the tinfoil. I had a picture and I can't find it now.
It also depends on how much light is on it, because the less light on it, you'll get a softer bokeh. If it's very well lit and very bright, it's going to give you very bright blobs and very almost overexposed blobs, and that can be off-putting.
Yes.
Can you use fairy lights in the background far away?
Yes, fairy lights, fairy lights, Christmas trees and fairy lights are a wonderful subject. So if you've got fairy lights, it's a great idea to haul them out now and get yourself set yourself a still life on a table somewhere. Use the fairy lights in the background and set yourself something up, some flowers or some fruit or something in the foreground, and you'll be amazed how beautiful you can get bokeh from fairy lights. Really good subject for that.
I'm just going to share my screen quickly to show you something. Share. Here we go. So I just Googled this quickly. This is how you set it up. Or put this on the side. And then this is the kind of stuff that you can get. So it's very intense. Okay.
Yeah, that is very intense, isn't it?
Oh, there we go. And just be very careful. But yeah. So this here shows you what they did with aluminium foil. And just Google it, how to do bokeh with aluminium foil, crumpled up a little bit, put in the background. Okay. Oh, so he was actually photographing his camera. Okay. And so there was a little bit of light going through kind of thing. So yeah, I've done it before and I did it too close and it was a problem. But yeah, you can do amazing things.
Yeah. If you do it too close, you're going to get that background in focus, and you don't want that. You don't want that background to be in focus. You want that background to be well out of focus, and that's why using a very wide aperture and a shallow depth of field is the way to go for that.
Minky, that's one's for you with all your little toys. If you don't have tinfoil, you can actually take sweet wrappers. If you're doing macro, you can take sweet wrappers like that. That's actually quite nice.
That pink one is nice. That's a nice subtle macro a bit further down.
And then bokeh with fairy lights. So there we go. There's your bokeh. Use your Christmas lights. And that one. That's actually of Christmas lights with bokeh from Christmas lights in the background. So I mean that's really, really cool. Oh God, these bloody pop-ups. Drive me nuts. Okay, so yes, you can manufacture if you can't do it when you go out into the garden. Yes, stop sharing. Yes, and I had one that had water in the background. I wanted to show you, but now I don't know what I've done with it. That was my entry for the month. So now I'm going to have to find.
So yeah, can I just ask? Sorry.
Yes.
If you're taking it in the dark, you would have a slow shutter speed. And wide open, yes, but a slow shutter speed. Is that okay?
The shutter speed doesn't really affect the quality of the bokeh. You've just got to have enough light on that speckled surface to be able to capture that. So, quite honestly, I don't want to say the more light the better, because then it can be overdone. But your background, you've got to have enough light there to be able to capture those out of focus spots, those dots. And so whether it means a slower shutter speed or a faster shutter speed, I don't think it really matters, as long as you can capture the light on those spots. But your wide aperture is going to matter, because that's going to throw your spots out of focus.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that was fantastic, Leon. Any other questions?
Can you hear me, Des?
Yes. Yes.
I was reading somewhere when you showed us that bokeh that had a hexagonal, like a six-sided shape.
Yeah.
It could be it could be compared to that star filter look that you had with the raindrop, because I read that when you open and close your aperture or your f-stop, the thing
Yes.
that's moving in and out has got fans on it.
Yeah.
So when I bought my 100mm lens, they said if you buy a more expensive lens, it's got more fans, it gives you a better bokeh.
Okay, now I know that a lens, that's your diaphragm you're talking about, and that diaphragm gives you that starburst effect usually at around about f22. So if you photograph streetlights and things, and if you want that starburst effect, then f22 will give you that. But that particular image with that starburst wasn't f22 at all. It was just I can't tell you what it was, but it was out in the bright sunlight, and it just happened. But I'm not sure whether that f22 is going to work with bokeh, because to me it sounds that f22 is going to be your backgrounds are going to be too much in focus. You're going to have very sharp.
No, I'm not saying that star effect is a bokeh. I'm saying it's compared to the diaphragm. The amount of fins that you've got, the less fins will give you that hexagonal instead of a round bokeh.
Yeah. No, I
I'm
did
just
see
saying I said maybe your star is how many fans or fins you have in your diaphragm.
Yeah.
You could sometimes see stars with only maybe 10 and not 20.
Okay. Yeah, I actually saw a graphic today. I should have actually downloaded it. Where they compared different lenses, the same settings, but different lenses, and what the difference was in the shapes of the bokeh. Some of them were quite, I don't know, hexagonal, five shape. What's five shapes? Five corners. Some of them were quite structured and straight edges, where some of them were round, some of them had sharper edges, some of them had softer edges, and that all depended on the lens, the make of the lens, and the quality of the lens. So that also plays a big part, obviously.
Okay. Thanks, Minky. It was a really good question. Any other questions? Welcome, Margie.
Yes, please.
Yes, Mark.
Leon,
Yes.
you spoke earlier about faster lenses are more beneficial. What do you mean by faster lenses? That's got nothing to do with your
An
speed.
f2.8 lens is a faster lens
Yeah.
than an f4 or a f5.6 lens. So in other words, it's letting in more light. And that has to do, obviously, the more light you can let in, the better quality of bokeh you're going to get, and that's completely understandable. If you look at your picture of your cat that you've got on your desktop, there's actually some bokeh in the background there. I don't know if you can see it, if anybody else can see it.
Yeah, I've entered that one in a competition before, yeah.
Yeah, the faster the lens is, the better they say, the better the success is of getting bokeh. But I've proved that wrong, because I've used a 5.6, my 400 lens, my long lens is 4.4 to 5.6, f4 to f5.6, which is not a particularly fast lens, but I still get the bokeh if my distance from my subject is right. If that ratio is right, you will still, and obviously the shutter, the aperture that you're using on the lens as well. So these things
Yes,
are
I think that's just where the confusion came in earlier, because he spoke about faster lenses, but I think people were thinking it's your f-stop.
No,
I mean, not your f-stop, your speed.
Yes, no, I'm
Instead
with
of
you.
like a second or
Sorry, I should have
500, you know what
clarified
I'm saying?
myself. Yeah, should have
That's what I
clarified.
thought. Okay.
No, we're
So they
talking
also,
about the shutter speed. Shutter speed is one thing, but the f-stop of the lens, the quality of the lens. The lower you go down, the f2.8 lens is, say for example, you're buying or you're comparing a 70 to 200 lens, a f2.8 and a f4. The f2.8 is probably going to be double the price of the f4
Yeah.
lens because it's just a better quality lens. You're letting in more light, and for that reason, they're going to charge you a hell of a lot more. Probably double the size as well, but it's a faster lens and considered to be a better quality lens.
yeah. So the FOSS comes in because you can take something like an f2.8 into indoor hockey, and you can have a higher shutter speed because your aperture is wider open. So if you have a f2.8 or a 1.8, it means you can have a faster shutter speed for FOSS Sport. So that's why it's called FOSS glass. Yeah, they're called FOSS glass or FOSS lenses. Yes. So so it's got nothing to do with shutter speed. Yes. So if you're doing indoor hockey and you've got an f2.8 lens or something, then it's a FOSS lens. That's what you need. Yeah, FOSS glass.
Then you're paying, in comparison, you're paying a lot more. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big monies. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. Good question. Any other questions?
It was safe to go out at night. You can get good shots at night in the city with tail lights and lights at robots. If you have a subject close to the lens and use the robots and the car lights as bokeh.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what city you're going into in South Africa. I'll take security with you.
I was just going to say, not Maritzburg.
But yes, that's a good idea.
But in theory, yes.
I started by saying if it was safe to go out.
Okay. We didn't hear that part. Yes. If it was safe to go out. Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, that's fantastic. Those are lovely questions. Leon, thank you so much. I hope that clears things up for everybody. What is the next? I'm leaning over to get the next. Here we go. The next one is portraits. Okay, so I'm sure we'll have a meeting about portraits. We'll have a little Zoom about portraits, human and animal. Yes, that's the next one. Then macro, layers, contre-jour, street photography, photo story. I don't know if we're going to do street photography. Photo story. Yeah. And what else?
Contre-jour is going to be an interesting one because it's lots of people just don't understand it at all.
Yes, so the year that I joined the club, contre-jour was the Marvel challenge.
Yes.
Well, it wasn't called the Marvel challenge yet, it was the Marvel challenge subject. And I still don't know if people understand what contre-jour is. The judges didn't, because I tell this story so many times, I'm going to tell it again. This picture came up of this naked woman. There was no contre-jour whatsoever. She was fully lit from the front and from the back. And the judges were all males, and they went zoop, and they all gave it 5 out of 5 because it was a naked woman. So it was not contre-jour. So I still don't understand what contre-jour is. So that'll be interesting. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. We'll put this up if you want to watch it again, and we will see you at the meeting. We'll see you at either Sunflowers or we'll see you at the meeting. Leon, yes, who wanted to talk?
Can I also just mention, if anybody wants to email me privately and discuss this or ask questions, you're welcome to.
Okay. Gustav has just put some images on the WhatsApp group, some fabulous images, some proper contre-jour stuff. I think those are his photos. So I don't know if they're his. Yeah.
Thank you, Des and Leon, for the time that you guys put in to prepare this for the club. Everyone appreciates it so much. Just photography explained in normal concepts, I would say. Thank you very much for your time, guys.
You know what? I'm just very pleased that there is this teaching and learning available. I just felt it was an empty hollow in the club, that we needed more of this sort of thing. And it's a good idea because I hope that people have now learned and they can take it forward and put it into practice.
Yeah, and I tell you, I had a regional directors meeting with all the other regional directors from all the other provinces, and very few clubs do this. Very few clubs do the Zoom and the meeting. So, we really are far ahead of other clubs. And then what Leon and I are going to be doing, we'll tell you about, it's very exciting. That's even going to push us further ahead. And with our open date exhibition, it's just going to be fabulous. But yes, thank you, everybody.
Okay, any more
Thanks,
questions?
guys.
Bye.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, Leon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Leon, thanks so
Leon.
much for all that work.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Jane.
everyone. Everyone's
Thank
saying
you, Jane.
bye. Okay, I'm going to stop recording now.